Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mary's Creative Decor. For today's project, we'll be upgrading and painting this nightstand that I picked up at the Goodwill. I picked it up some months ago and I paid like $9.99 for it, and it's been sitting in my guest bedroom. So the first thing we want to do is prepare it with our liquid sander. We are going to scrub it down really well with the liquid sander to remove the shine. Once we've cleaned it with the liquid sander, we're going to use our 220 grit sandpaper and sand off any more shine that's left on the furniture. Once we sand it, we want to clean the furniture and prepare it for our primer. We want to add a coat of primer before we're ready to add our Modern Masters silver metallic paint. We'll be adding 2 to 3 coats of this paint. Today I'll be using a paintbrush to apply the paint to the furniture. So let's get started first by taking the drawers out of the nightstand and removing the hardware. Okay guys, on the drawers they have this roping around the front and I really don't like it. So while I was taking the hardware off the drawers, I noticed these 3 screws at the top of the drawer. So I'm going to release those 3 screws and hopefully it will take away the roping that's around the drawer. Oh yes, it's pulling away from the drawer. Wonderful, wonderful. Maybe there's more screws at the bottom. Yes, I see more screws at the bottom. So we'll release those and take the panels off the front. And this is what it looks like without the panels. And this is the panel. It's one piece, but we'll keep this for a template because I have to put pieces back around the front of the drawer to hold my resin. Okay, I'm back and I've washed my furniture down with the liquid sander, and now I'm ready to sand the furniture. But in sanding the furniture, I noticed that the top of the furniture is like a formica, so it is very shiny and it won't go away. But we're going to take care of that. We won't paint that. We'll put a contact marble paper on the top. Now on the front of my drawers, I have sanded the top right where the paint is, the white paint that you see. We're going to paint that silver, but again on the outside of the drawer where we took away the rope trim, I'm going to put some trim back around there, cut it and put it back around the sides of the drawer. But until I do that, I'm going to continue sanding the corners and all these grooves that are on the dresser or on the nightstand. The liquid sandpaper couldn't really get in there, so I'm going to continue sanding all of those crevices and corners, and we'll be back to put our primer on and then our paint. Okay, I'm back and I have sanded my furniture, washed it down again, and I've given it 2 coats of the Zinsser Bullseye 123 primer water base. Let it dry for 15 to 30 minutes, and now we're ready to add our first coat of paint. Again, I'll be using Modern Masters metallic silver paint, and we'll be adding 2 to 3 coats of this to our furniture. So I just want to show you what I did with the drawer fronts. We took the old piece with the roping off, and what I've done is took some trim that I had left over from another project laying around the house, and I mitered the corners and I cut it to go around the drawer fronts. Now I don't have quite enough, so that means I have to make a trip to the hardware store. So because of that, we'll just paint the top of the drawers today, But tomorrow, when I'm able to get more of this trim, I will nail it to the drawer fronts. So since I can't work on the drawers anymore this evening, I'm going to continue or start to paint my nightstand. I'm using the Quick Solutions 2-inch angle brush, and this will make it a little bit easier to get into the crevices. And I'm also using a short handle brush, and this gives you better control. And if you guys are interested in painting your furniture metallic silver or the metallic gold, I would highly recommend this Modern Masters metallic gold and silver paint. It glides on really, really well, and the coverage is real good. As you can see, this is just one coat that I'm putting on this nightstand, and it's covering it really, really well. Okay, so I have one coat of the Modern Masters paint on this side. I would have put two, but as you can see, the primer wasn't quite dry here, so it got in the paint. But on this side, I already have 2 coats of the Modern Masters paint, so I'm going to have to let it dry. It's late, so tomorrow I'll come back with my 3rd coat of paint, and I'll be ready to work on my drawers. I did add 2 coats of paint on the drawers, and I painted the few pieces that I have to go on the top, but I'll cut the other pieces on tomorrow and we'll go forward. Good morning, I'm back, and this morning I have cut a piece of wood to go across the back side of my nightstand. I'm going to add legs to it, and it needs something to attach to. So I cut this piece of wood to go from one side to the other side. And here I'm starting to drill it in. Here I'm starting to take off the floor protectors on the bottom of the nightstand. The nail did not come out, so I used my hammer to pull the nail out. I'm going to do that in all 4 corners, and then I'll be ready to add my legs. Here is the piece of wood that I added to the back side so that my legs will have something to attach to. Here are the legs that I purchased for my nightstand. I got these from Amazon. So what I'm doing is putting them in place, and then I'm using a pencil to make the mark for pilot holes so that my screws will go in easily. My pilot holes are complete, and now I'm ready to screw down my legs. As you can see, there wasn't enough room for my drill to get in to drill the screws all the way in. So I will be taking a hand screwdriver and screwing the screws down. And here's my drawers. I've done both drawers with the miter cuts, and it's laying in place. And now I'm about to affix them to the face of the drawer. I'm going to be using wood glue and painter's tape to hold it in place. Once it dries, I'll use finishing nails or screws, whichever one I have on hand that's long enough to go through the thickness of the wood without protruding. All my miter cut pieces have been laid on the drawer fronts, and now I'm taking some Elmer's white wood filler and I'm filling the corners. Once all my corners are filled, I'll let the wood filler dry, and then I'll come back and sand them smooth. I'm back and my wood filler has dried on my drawer fronts. Now I'm taking a 220 grit sand block and I'm sanding the corners of the drawer smooth. You want to make sure that when you're doing that sanding, that you're also making sure that you keep the shape of the corners at a square. Otherwise, it would look a little bit off. When I'm done with my sanding, I'm going to go back in with my Modern Masters silver metallic paint, and I'm going to repaint or touch up the wooden pieces that I added to my drawer front. I finished sanding and touching up the front of my drawers, and I've also added the screws from the back side to the front to make sure that my drawer facing does not come off. I added it to the top, and I also added screws to the bottom. Now I'm ready to take my Mod Podge and layer it on the bottom of the drawer. I'll do this, and then I will add my crushed glass to the drawer fronts. Now I'm ready to add my crushed glass. I did get this crushed glass from Michael's, and I'm just going to sprinkle it on top of the Mod Podge. Not a heavy coat, but enough to give me the brilliance that I'm looking for. Now I'm going to take some silver crushed glass by Less Resin. I got this from Amazon, and I'm going to sprinkle this on the top of the crushed glass to give it more of a brilliance. I don't want a lot, but just enough to add some more shine. I'm going to wait 2 hours for my Mod Podge to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to add contact paper to the top of my nightstand. My contact paper is complete, and now I'm ready to mix my resin. I'm using Podge epoxy resin. I'm using 3 ounces of part A and 3 ounces of part B. Once I've measured out 3 ounces of each in the smaller cups, I combine them in the larger cup, and I mix them 5 minutes according to instructions. Then you pour slowly into a second cup and mix it another 2 times. And this you will do 2 times before you're ready to pour your epoxy. When pouring your epoxy mixture onto the dresser fronts, try to keep your measurements equal, and this is how it will turn out. We'll have to let the epoxy rest for 24 hours, and I'll be back with the finished product. I am now adding my hardware to my drawers, and I will be back to show you the complete project. And here is my project complete. I think my nightstand or bedside table turned out beautiful. Brilliant, actually. Look at those legs. And they came from Amazon, and they were $15.99 for 4. The hardware or the pulls I had left over from another project, and I did purchase them from Amazon as well. I also added mosaic tile along the bottom and the sides of the nightstand just to give it more dimension. Here is the contact paper that I added to the top. We have a lot of things going on, but it works together beautiful. And on the front, you can see I also added mosaic tiles. And I did that because the frame that I took off the drawers was thicker than what I added. And the old frame covered more of the lip of the drawer. So I wanted to give mine dimension, and so I added the mosaic tiles. Again, absolutely beautiful it turned out. So if you guys have enjoyed this video as much as I have enjoyed bringing it to you, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to come back for the next one. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.